This is episode 1 of Field Notes, which is going to be a podcast series where I'm talking about what I see working, what doesn't work, my observations, things that I learn. Since I've come back from Asia, I've started making more content. I do regret not doing it before. The reason being, I had some success with what I was working on whilst I was traveling. I made some money. But the problem is that it wasn't consistent. It mainly relied on word of mouth. And I basically didn't have enough people referring new people to keep it as a steady stream. The next issue that I had was that I was doing one-off websites for people. There was no retainer or monthly recurring subscription that I had with people. So as a freelancer, this is a rookie mistake because this leads to feast and famine cycles. Instead of having a predictable income and having stuff to work on, you're hoping that work comes. And this issue led me to do what I've done in the past with, I think of it as just flip-flopping between things, like, oh, this thing's working, let me do this, and this thing's working, let me try that. And instead of having something to do, you find things to do. And this is one of the easiest ways to waste your time. So what I've realized fundamentally is that the most important thing that I can do to grow my business online is to make content. To make good content. And in order to get good at making content, I need to get the reps in and get all the bad content out of the way so that it becomes better through me just having more practice, more experience, avoiding blunders, avoiding common mistakes, and essentially building up my channels online. And that is essentially getting an audience, building an audience, getting exposure, letting people know that you exist. So I got caught up in a lot of things which did develop my skills, but I made the mistake, I think, of not documenting it enough. And one of my biggest issues, I think, is that I was getting frustrated that I wasn't making the money that I wanted to make. So I would try things that I thought would make money and not take the proper breaks. And essentially that would lead to me burning myself out. And then when you get to the point of, you should have been documenting this, you should have been making content about this, you're just like, how can I make content about this? I'm literally so burnt out. I don't want to fucking work on any of this. There are a few things that I'm changing. One is that anyone I work with needs to be on a basis of recurring work, because the work that you put in, the effort that you put in to get one customer, it's not worth having them just buy one thing from you. You need them to buy your thing again and again. So I'm making some changes to make that happen. The other thing that I've noticed is that actually making content which is like tutorials drives people to the solution that I have for them. So this month it was about £167. That was mainly from this template where I've got a YouTube tutorial talking about how to set up a waitlist. I've then got this template that you can use to set up a waitlist. And then I get a commission from Framer, which is half of what that person pays for hosting. So say they pay $20 a month, I get $10 a month for the first year that they host that template. I've been making content just about what I'm interested in. I've been doing some of this problem solving content. And now I'm also doing some of this competence content, showing the things which I'm good at. In Asia, when I was traveling, I learned how to code, how to do this vibe coding with AI. I spent a lot of time and money on learning this AI stuff. I can essentially now build web apps and software which is useful for businesses. Instead of needing something like Framer or WordPress to build a website, I can now make them from scratch, host them, connect custom integrations. Like, I can do a lot of that stuff now. So sharing that and what I've learned is essentially letting the world know that I'm competent in this skill set. Sharing more of that, sharing more of the templates, which is a digital product, and then making content that brings people into that. And then also the stuff which I'm just interested in. So I bought an e-bike. I started sharing content about the e-bike. And I think that's good, just to it allows people to get to know you. And it gives me something to do that I'm interested in. Like, I could just talk about bikes and parts and accessories and stuff all day if you wanted me to. And I enjoy it. It's something I think that people don't have enough in their life of things which they would just do anyway, right? A lot of the stuff that we do, that we spend time on in our life, is things which we have to do. People don't have that many things that they just enjoy, that they're passionate about, really, right? That they could talk about, that they'll happily put time, money, effort into because they enjoy it. Like, we just don't have enough of that. For me, I think that is cycling, bikes, motorbikes. I just love it. That's what I enjoy. And I'm starting to enjoy making videos about it and talking about it and sharing what I know, because I know a lot about it and I've got some unique perspectives about it, and it's something which I'm super interested in. So I'm more advanced than the average person in that topic. So I've got something to say about it as well. Been sharing all this stuff. It's good. People are interested in the template that I shared. People have been interested in the stuff I shared about the e-bikes. Now, this hurdle, which I think has stopped me from continuing with making content, is just overcomplicating things. And it's something which has held me up in business as well. I think it's just overcomplicating shit and getting in my own way. For example, instead of trying to make a super in-depth plan about what I want to do and how I want to do it, if I know the general direction and I know why and I understand why, then it's not important for me to have the entire thing mapped out, because you can easily just get caught up in details. This is something which I have a tendency to do. For example, when I bought my bike, I researched it for probably 4 hours a day for 3 weeks, looking at different bikes. What's this one like? What's that one like? Different questions. On ChatGPT asking about it, watching videos. And it was a big purchase. It wasn't easily reversible. It's worth spending a bit more time on, but not to that extent. That extent has a diminishing return, right? Planning is useful, but after a certain point, it's a form of procrastination. And a lot of this is transferable. What I've realized is the way you act in some areas transfers to the way you act in other areas. So, for example, that tendency to procrastinate but feeling productive is a trap which entrepreneurs fall into as well. So they think that they're planning and they're being productive and they're researching, and they think that that's going to help their business and move them forward, but it's not actually just doing the thing. They won't make the progress until they start and put that into play. And it was the same with the bike. It's a form of productive feeling procrastination. So you feel like you're getting more information, you're making a more informed decision. And ultimately, I did make an informed decision. and I think I got the right bike for what I was looking for. But I did spend a bit too much time on it. And what I've noticed is that has been something that I tend to do when researching anything. I essentially become obsessed about it to the point where I just won't take breaks. I'll hyper focus on it. And that isn't that useful. So what I've realized is that tendency to overplan, overcomplicate, overthink, it is a common theme in other areas of my life as well. It takes self-awareness to realize and be honest about and say, yeah, I do that with my business, and yeah, I do that with my content, and that's how I show up with other people. This is what I do. Because if you can say, yeah, that is what I do, what am I going to do about it? At least it's solved. You develop these tendencies and then they plague your whole life. And I've spoken to people recently with problems they've experienced, and I just started to see how the way that someone became overwhelmed in planning things, they became overwhelmed in social situations, and then that affected them. If you don't break the pattern, you essentially apply that bad habit to all of your life, and that's just not what we want to do. So one of the things that I have really had to stop myself from doing is over planning this content. My goal was to just start putting the camera in front of me and recording. I made it this field notes idea because all the time, aside from this content, aside from everything, I am journaling and thinking about what's working, what's not working. The people I talk to in my life, I'm talking about what is working, what's not working, how do we fix it, how do we improve it, what's the solution? Trying to get a better perspective on the way that we do things and why, and I overreacted to this, and let's unpack why. These are the things that I'm thinking about on a regular basis. So for me to start talking about this is pretty normal. For me to have a half an hour conversation or a 2-hour conversation with someone talking about this stuff is regular for me. And I've had to stop myself from getting into this pretend productive procrastination where instead of recording myself, I'm thinking about recording myself and planning it and writing shit down and researching. Essentially everything other than the thing. I've had to do it about something which is natural, second nature for me, that I don't need to think about too much. The analogy I thought of was like, if I ring someone on my phone and I FaceTime them and they don't answer, you just lock your phone and say, I'll ring them later, or I'll wait till they ring me back. You don't think, what am I going to say exactly? And how am I going to say this if they say something else? And what am I going to do if they don't ring me back? Because it's so normal, you don't really tend to think like that in this overthinking, anxious manner. But when something's unfamiliar, it's easy to slip into doing that. My approach with this, with recording myself, has just been to normalize it as much as possible. So talk about normal things which I generally am thinking about and talking about. I'm not coming on here trying to make some super high production value thing which is out of the ordinary for me, where I feel like I'm talking on the news. I'm just sat at my desk where I'm normally sat and just talking about stuff which I'm normally talking about. And someone out there can get value from it. That's the point. The point for me to talk about it and deal with other people and everything like that, and why I'm thinking about it, is to bring value to my life. So for me to talk about it, other people can access that and get value in their life as well. And the main thing that's important for me is to overcome these problems with recording myself to the point where I can make good content, because ultimately that is the most important thing to grow your business. If I make a business and I've got the perfect offer but no one sees it, it's pointless. Whereas you can actually have a good audience but no offer and then create an offer off the back of what your audience wants and be more successful. So making the audience and talking about stuff you're interested in and connecting with like-minded people is far more important than flip-flopping around and changing direction on what you're working on because you aren't where you want to be. And I think that this is the most important high leverage activity that anyone with a business can do. And I'm going to end it on this point. I made a video about this previously, and it was something which I realized when I was researching what bike to buy. And this guy had a video. I couldn't find a video about the specific model which I bought. It was the most similar one I could get. I think it was basically the same model, but a few years older. And it wasn't like some super well-edited video. It was this kind of old man in his garden talking about the bike. And he was saying the kind of rides that he was taking it on and what he liked, what he didn't like. And ultimately, that video was what gave me the information I needed to make the decision. I'm buying a £2,600 bike, right? Based on this random person talking about their perspective. And then I'm looking at the comments to see if anyone had said anything. And one of the comments was like, this is the most boring, badly edited video I've ever seen. And I was thinking, that's cool. That's what that person thinks. That's what came to their mind. But actually, for me, it was super valuable. And yes, there was no editing and it wasn't some super well-structured video, but it had the information that I needed at the time. And I couldn't care less if the guy talked in a monotonous, boring way, because what he said was valuable to me at the time for what I was looking for. And that was when I stopped researching it, because what he said in that video was like, that's the kind of rides I want to do. He's got the exact same reasons for wanting to buy it and what it done for him and whether it delivered on those things. So I was just like, cool, that's the one. Now where do I buy it from? If that guy had the shop, I would have been going there to buy it. When I was looking for a car, there was guys who would talk about selling cars, but because they talked about it in a competent way and how they repaired them and what they looked for to buy one that's worth selling. For example, they don't want to buy a shit car because they don't want the problem to fall on the customer and then come back bad on them. They want to buy decent cars that are going to run and not have problems, that don't need too much doing to them. And that guy was like 400 or 500 miles away from me, but I was considering going there to buy a car from him until we bought a different car off someone we knew. Even someone who's talking about how they make money from their business and what they do to find cheap cars to sell them on for a profit, my mind was like, this guy knows what he's doing. He must be reliable. He's competent. I want to buy from him. And this is the big shift in my mind that doesn't have to be perfect. There's no point in over planning it because it's just a waste of time. You're going to get more progress from just taking action, doing the thing, normalizing it to the point where you don't have to think about it too much. Like when you FaceTime someone, get that camera in front of you so many times that it's just normal. Even talking about totally unrelated things brings an audience into you, and then your worlds may align. And what I mean by your worlds might align is someone watching this might say, oh, he mentioned a wait list. I actually need to start a wait list. And what's that thing that he's got? And that's how it goes. And getting good at doing that and relating it and bringing people in and then giving them somewhere to go and giving them more content that they're interested in and ways to connect with you. This is the foundation of having an online business. And I think that I've neglected it. And now it's essential for me to just apply every other thing I've learned and struggled with into this and just make this happen. This is what Field Notes is. This is the kind of stuff I want to talk about. If you found this useful, let me know. I really want people to leave comments and have a proper conversation about what they think and what they've struggled with. And this really needs to be something where people learn from each other. The best way that we can learn is from other people and then from our own mistakes by having honest, self-aware type conversations, whether it's other people or just internally, to ultimately improve our lives. That's what this is about. It's about improving our situation, getting the best out of this, just not fucking wasting our life. Episode 1, if you like it, subscribe, let me know, tell me what you're interested in, let's talk, and then I'm going to just do this super regularly and try and get this to be just an ongoing series, Field Notes. So yeah, thank you for listening. I appreciate that if you've made it to the end. Thanks.